All right, so I'm not going to do a lot of talking before this, but today's video is going to be types of, girls that dudes like, dudes types basically, It's a list from this is about the complexion of the woman. Okay? Hey, don't hate the player, hate the game, all right? But yeah, I'm going to get straight into it. But first up, we got white girls aka snow bunnies. Now, these women have had chokeholds on the black community for a while. These it starts way before we had our civil rights and all that, you know what I'm saying? But yeah, since the 2010s, since online was really a thing, it's just kind of gassed up from there and there. Men can't control themselves. Now obviously if you're a white guy and you like white girls, that's normal, but for the black dudes and even like the Hispanic and maybe Asian dudes, seen as kind of a oh, you don't like your own women type of thing. And yeah, there's multiple black dudes who date white women, and personally I don't care, but I'm also a regular person, so but then niggas go too far sometimes, talking about creating songs like Snow Bunny Heaven, freaking talking about some if it ain't snowing I ain't going, and etc., right? And of course, like most other, I've dabbled in the snow a little bit, of course, come on now. And like I said, don't really care. I'm not really one to have energy to care about stuff like that. But of course, you got your dudes who, don't want, certain people like, oh, we don't need mix and this and that. Their dads be strict. Freaking, they probably got racist grandparents who drunk out of white only water fountains. Like, come on now. So we always got to keep that in mind. When we're going to like barbecues, freaking Thanksgiving, all that good stuff. White girls also get a bad rap from girls of other races, like all other races. Like a lot of girls, just don't like white women like that, And I'm pretty sure it's because they are seen as the beauty standard. So, that's kind of one of the things that I could kind of see, women taking beauty into real consideration. They get hit with that. And also I remember during the NFL draft back in 2024, because I'm glad it didn't happen this year, a lot of dudes, the draftees, had white women and they were men of color. And I remember a dude on a podcast said the reason why they date these white girls, and he made a very valid point, is a lot of these white women, they're taught to at an early age to see a man's potential and then stay with him, thug it out, and then reap the benefits in the end. And a lot of he was saying basically a lot of women of color are taught in their household that, and by their mom, and their mom is usually teaching them, hey, get a man who already got some, this and that, especially if they're already not with their dad. He was basically saying a lot of women of color, especially black women, don't be into these into these college athletes at the time. A lot of them just be into them when they get money. And like I said, I think there's some true and some false into this, but next up we got light skins, aka red bones, whatever you want to call them, right? Now, these girls had a run. Now, I ain't gonna lie, it's still kind of going, but that run was strong in like between 2014 and like 2019. They had that run going. I ain't gonna lie. Like you just saw it in all the celebrities, like the Zendaya, Zoe Kravitz, all those, Rihanna, freaking, even some consider Beyonce light skin, right? And it was seen as like the hardest thing to pull a light skinned girl at the time, because they play like that, they be acting light skinned as they call it. Now a little side note, freaking being a light skinned dude was the meta at the time. Back in high school, at least when I was in high school, right? They had to get patched, and they ended up getting patched, right? Since last time I heard, being a tall light skinned nigga with curly hair used to be freaking goated. But I digress, right? We're talking about women. I remember the light skin hype was so freaking valid back in those times that they came up with the term colorist, right? Freaking colorist meaning you are discriminatory to another shade of color. Usually it pertains to a darker shade of color. Because I remember back in those times, if you said you didn't date light skins, it was cool. But if someone said they didn't date dark skins, it was a problem. Make that make sense, right? But yeah, these girls, they were giving out all the heartbreak at one point in time, and starting to come to an end, right? It's everyone's diverse now with it. Next up, we got Asian girls or ABGs, whatever, whatever y'all call them. Bro, I remember I started liking Asian girls like back after like my freshman year of high school. I met this super fine Asian girl on this cruise. She was freaking Korean. And she lived in the UK for some years before moving to Houston. So she had like a fire like British accent. I remember in high school, that's when I started my Asian girl grind. You know, the first ever girl I ever talked to was Asian back in my junior year. She was a foreign exchange student from Vietnam. So yes, I am on this side. I relate to y'all if y'all are in the Asian girl sunken place. Bro, the amount of times I've scrolled on TikTok and seen a TikTok saying, hey, there's no hashtags. I'm just wishing you a freaking boba date with a fine ABG. And then the whole freaking like description is filled with hashtags. I'm like, first of all, you lied. I appreciate you for this. You brought it to my algorithm. But you know, you were capping. I know I hit the mic a little bit. I thought that was my bad. Bro, you go to the comment section, it's just freaking the big paragraph. Everyone copy and paste and talking about some she ain't Asian, I ain't chasing. If it ain't noodles, then it's toodles. If my dog ain't in danger, she if my dog ain't in danger, she's a stranger. I'm like, well, what are we doing? Trust me, I'm all for the hype, but like I remember back in the day, not too long ago, it was like probably 3 years ago, it was a thing of like freaking if you were just a tall white guy but you were like super skinny and like ugly, you could still pull like the finest Asian girl. And there's some truth to that, only because yeah, like 50% of like American born Asian girls like date outside of their race, especially most of that being freaking white dudes. But these passport bros are making a run. They're over there going to the Philippines, getting them girls who freaking ain't got nothing going on, bringing them back to America. Now, obviously, that's a terrible plan, because once they get here to America, you start throwing money at them. You know, they're just going to do what these quote unquote American girls do, which it's not really an American girl thing. It's kind of just the girls she surrounds herself with. But that's a different story for a different time. But yeah, bringing girls back, sure, if you want to, it's fun. But I think the reason kind of makes y'all look a little stupid, and then y'all end up being wrong, and then being on this high horse of, oh, you gotta get your passport, go this and that, and it fails. You look stupid, and then you try and make up for it in a stupid way. But honestly, depending on who you are, is the type of Asian girl you should get, because there's so many different like ones. Talking about like we're talking about Pokemon or something. Obviously, like the Japanese, you know, Chinese, Korean, you know, the East Asian girls, even like Taiwan, are more so gonna be like, you know, go for the whiter dudes. 9 times out of 10, that's mainly because they are lighter shade, and there is a good amount of colorism in Asian culture that I've been told, at least, and that has been like shown. And if you're, you know, black dude, it's Southeast Asian. There's some fire Southeast Asians, right? We got Philippines, Vietnam, Laos. I find fine girls from all those countries, because you know they're a bit of the darker shade, you know, because the equator and all that stuff, right? Matter of fact, any nigga watching this, hey, I wish you a fire boba date with some fine Asian girl. Hey, I'm no hashtags in this video either. I'm giving it to you. And last up on this list, we got Hispanic girls, Latinas, whatever you want to call them, right? Not gonna lie, had me in a chokehold for recent 5, maybe 6 years, right? This is like a default like baddie race, only because it's like you see that Salma Hayek's, freaking Rosalind Sanchez's, Sofia Vergara's, right? And you know, every dude finds some you know, saucy, fire, you know, things of that nature, right? Spicy, whatever you want to call them, huh? No, salsa bunnies, as Dr. Umar calls them. And I know there's this thing of like, oh man, yeah, you know, Latinas are crazy, blah blah blah. If you can't handle it, you go. It's not true. I've literally dated regular, like tempered Spanish girls. They're only, most of y'all get the crazy ones because y'all have this. You're not in your masculinity for her. You know, you're in your masculinity. It ain't gonna put her in her submissive mode. Because I'm pretty sure Freaking her mom is probably submissive to her dad, so let's be honest, right? But yeah, like every girl, they got attitudes, right? Now I've learned how to deal with like argumentative women in my day, which is clearly just not arguing back. That's like the main way you freaking get them to stop trying to argue with you. I don't know how y'all haven't learned that yet, but yeah, that's how you do it. And of course you got your different, flavors of Latin girls. You got your Mexican, Cuban, Puerto Rican, Colombian, what's another one? Dominican, all of them, right? Of course, like a lot of those girls, date, dudes who are, the same, nationality as them. But Dominican women complain about Dominican men, Puerto Rican women complain about Puerto Rican men. So I know allegedly in New York, a lot of the Puerto Rican women and Dominican women mess with black dudes. But even in like Florida, I know for a fact that if you're just like a black dude with just some sauce, a lot of Puerto Rican women are gonna be, they're gonna rock with you. You ain't gotta be the most attractive dude on the planet, but just literally some sauce. Now I will say in like California, if you're like in the Long Beach area, maybe the South Central, those girls are probably, messing with black dudes. But a good amount of the ones in California who aren't like cool with that lifestyle are dating white dudes, because California is super liberal. And if we're talking about the like Latin girls down specifically in Miami, like the Cuban, Colombian, Ecuadorian, those girls, how much money you got? How much money you got? That's where your range is. But anyway, yeah, that's the end of the video. I ain't gonna lie. That was interesting. Depending on how you take it, right? Hopefully I didn't offend nobody. I try not to. Sometimes I actually care. I care. I'm not a monster. I'm not a monster. But anyways, yeah, I appreciate y'all for watching. If you stuck to the end, like and subscribe if you want. And yeah, I'm out. Deuce.